Welcome back. I'm John Shrock from johnshrock.com. Thank you so much for your support with my last week's video on Facebook, liking, sharing, commenting. Someone asked me the question, why did you leave? Well, that's a pretty broad question, but I can talk about that for a while. So just about why I left. It goes back a ways. So I left when I was 17, but it goes back to probably around 15, a little bit before I turned 16. I started working for this one family, and I really grew to love them. Thought they were super awesome. And about the same time, I started becoming more of a rebel, and like Amish people have rules and like how you can bend your hat and stuff like that. So I started bending my hat down too far on the back, and just various little different things that I did that was just kind of showing that I was being a little bit of a rebel. And of course my dad started blaming it on that family, and so he would say bad things about that family, and that would kind of make me be like, okay, well, I don't like you anymore either, Dad. And so it just kind of really irked me a lot that my dad didn't show support for this family, that he was against them because I liked him. And then, so this family's mom, she got cancer, and so I found out that she was going to die, and just all that just kind of really made me sad, and I started just feeling lonely. And every time my dad would say something negative about that family, oh man, it just was so hard on me. So it really made me start hating my dad. And then there was a few incidents where we had fights, and my dad would not want to apologize, or when I wouldn't demand an apology, but I knew he was wrong, and I would just whatever. There was one incident where he was like, go find this in the shed, and I was like, well, okay. So I went and looked, and I couldn't find it. I came back to him, I can't find it. So he's like, well, go look again. So I went and looked again, and then when I told him that it came back, I told him it wasn't there. He says, you're blind, and yells at me for a while for being blind and not being able to find it. Well, I said, look, I looked twice. Why don't you come out there, show me where it's at? He went out there and he couldn't find it either. So he said, well, maybe the neighbors borrowed it. So I went over to the neighbor's shed, and it was over there. And so I came back and said, hey, it's over there, it's the neighbor's shed. And he's like, well, I told you it wasn't the shed. Just incidents like that where he would get angry, and then he absolutely did nothing wrong. He was, it's just, so that started really making me mad. And being a rebels don't like that kind of a thing. So I started kind of looking at playing with the idea of leaving and thinking about it and questioning about it. And of course, at first I was just like, I can't believe it, because looking at myself, I'm like, I can't believe that I'm that horrible of an Amish person that I would even consider leaving. And I just thought how awful that was, but I kept playing with the idea, and I even mentioned it to a couple of my cousins. I said, hey, I've been thinking about leaving. And they were like, oh, you shouldn't think like that or whatever. But they didn't take me serious, and I just cannot believe that. I knew they wouldn't take me serious, but if they would have mentioned it to anyone, I would have gotten in so much trouble. My parents would have started watching me. I don't even know how I dared mention it to them. So anyway, there was that. And then there was another incident where I was plowing out in the field, and I hit a rock, and my plow jumped out of and so it didn't plow very well during that little section there. And my dad was like, he was watching me right behind me. He's like, I could have done a much better job than that. And of course, he's my dad, of course he could. But that just made me really mad. And so I replied, gross cup, which is an Amish word. It means big head, but it's more than that. In the Amish culture, it means more than that. And coming from a son to a dad, it's pretty awful. Well, and Dad didn't say anything. He just, left. But later that day, when I came up from plowing, he met me out in the barn, and he had a strap, and he said, all right, actually it was more like a belt, I guess I should say. He said, okay, Beans, you know everything, you need to whip me. And I was like, what? But he was like, no, you need to whip me. So I, just did a little bit, not really hard, but he's like, no, you have to whip me harder than that. And it just was terrible emotionally. It just played so much on me. And I was just like, this is awful. I can't take this. I was beginning to be so done with everything and just the rules, and the fact that I was getting in trouble like every Sunday that I would go out, I would do something stupid, and I just couldn't take it, being in trouble all the time, never being good enough. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions, and make sure to come back next week for more.